So you can get us started whenever you would like.
Okay, great. Thanks, Matt. Okay, so I'm going,
Colleen, do you want to just record?
sorry.
Sorry, my recording's not working, but we are live on
Yeah,
YouTube.
we're live on YouTube, so it's recorded. We'll just post
Yeah.
that video back to the website. That's fine.
Are we good to go?
Yep, we are good. Thank you, Vic.
Okay, great. Thanks, Matt. Okay, I'm going to call the March 26th regular meeting of MetroCOG, March 26, 2026 to order. I'd ask us all to stand to recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag,
to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Matt, can you call the roll for us?
I can, thank you. First Selectman Rooney, Town of Monroe.
Volume was off.
No problem. Thank you, sir. First Select Person Vitale, Town of Fairfield.
Good morning.
Thank you, Christine. First Selectman Lent, Town of Easton.
Here.
Thank you. Ken Flato, City of Bridgeport, Proxy Mayor Ganem.
Here.
Thank you. Chairman Tesoro.
I'm here, thank you.
And that is 5 members. That constitutes a quorum.
Great, thank you very much, Matt. Good morning, everybody, again. Nice to see you all, even though we're on Zoom today. Matt can give us a little update later on how we're making out on the changes at the office. So we'll talk
Yes,
about
that'll be
that in a
part of the
bit.
discussion.
So right now I'm going to see if there's anyone asking for public participation. Matt, I don't know if there's anybody who's joining us this morning online to.
No one from the public. We do have Alfredo and Sarah and Ashley from OPM that will be making a presentation to the board, but no other public participation.
Great, thank you. Okay, so let's move then to the approval of the minutes from the January 29th, 2026 meeting. Can I have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Thank you, Terry. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you. I'm not sure who that came from.
That was Ken Flato.
Ken.
Oh, hi, Ken. Thank you. Okay, so any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. I assume that was unanimous. So,
No, yep, no
okay, nobody
nays.
against?
Yep.
Okay, good. So those minutes are approved. All right, item 4 on our agenda is presentation from Alfredo Herrera, the Connecticut Geographic Information Officer. So, Matt, you want to introduce?
Yeah, Alfredo reached out, would like to make a presentation on some of the data and other information that Alfredo and his staff are putting together. They are out of the Office of Policy and Management, but Alfredo runs the GIS office for the state of Connecticut. So we're happy to have him here. Alfredo, we gave you the ability to share, unless it should be somebody else. So just let us know.
Yeah, if you could pass it to Ashley or Sarah, I'm not feeling
Okay.
well, so
Oh,
they're going to
no
be
problem. Sorry, Alfredo. Yeah.
presenting in my stead.
Ashley, you are a co-host now. You should be able to share your screen.
Yeah. Are you able to see my screen now, or did I not click through? Okay, no, I didn't click through.
It's coming up now.
There you go. Well, thank
right, we're
you,
good.
everybody at MetroCOG, for select people and Tesoro share of this group, and Matt Fulda for inviting us, and Mark Hoover to enabling to present here. Like Executive Director Fulda said, we do have a few things that we want to present to you, very high level, just to keep everybody updated in our priorities and what's coming next for in terms of the geospatial world for you guys. Just a little background for those that haven't met us. We have 2 coordinators in the office, so we will be presenting today on behalf of Alfredo. I'm Ashley Benitez. And my area of work concerns mostly address data, parcel data, broadband data, so everything that's related to that sort of precise and local fabric aspects. And I have Sarah with me. She will introduce herself in the second part when she's still discussing her slides. So A little background for those that are not aware of the GIS office and the Geographic Information Officer. The office was established on 2022 and is led by the GIO. And we coordinate our efforts. It's in coordinating and collaborating with all stakeholders in Connecticut. And we like to see us as the go-to resource for all things that have to do with geospatial. And that's where we focus the most on working closely with other state agencies, regional councils, municipalities, and other partners. Like I like to say, everybody is our stakeholder. The things that we do in general, like I mentioned, we do coordination, we do facilitate the statewide data collection that you may know, for example, parcel data. We compile this data and we share it widely and openly through our different portals, like the GeoData portal and an open data portal. We also do a lot of interagency support, supporting other agencies on their projects. We do outreach and training like we're doing today. And also we do collection of main data sets like ortho imagery and LiDAR data. And while we see all this data, we get to see some of the data quality issues. So we get to issue standards and guidance. And within all these data sets, of course, we do data processing, and we're called specifically by law to develop data and maps of broadband. And that's my responsibility. Just to hear a quick overview of our strategy, I'm not going to go over in detail. We have a vision. I think it's just really related to what I just explained before regarding our sort of tasks and efforts. So I will skip to this. I'll skip through this and go directly to the highlights and future activities. So talking about standards and collection, today I will be talking about a new guidance that we released, what we're calling the GIS Parcel Data Creation Guidance and Specifications. We do have other webinars that are recorded and could be used as resources for those that are interested in knowing more about GIS and in other efforts through Yukon and Clear. So that we put the link there for you guys. But today we're going to presenting on parcel data. In the priority tasks that we are looking ahead, one of the things that we want to start working, and we've been working on for a while, is developing a comprehensive list of addresses in the state. As you see, we have different multiple sources that can tell us where these locations, where addresses are. And right now we've estimated that we have 1.8 million addresses, and we are expecting to find more through different processes by collecting this address data from all these different sources. In the process, we would like to start surveying towns to understand how this data is collected and managed throughout through the ordinances, and who is responsible and entities for creating and documenting new addresses, and any other details that we you would like to provide in terms of the standards and record maintenance of these addresses, to really have a picture. So when we start publishing a complete data set, we can understand sort of the panorama and the little specs, all the little specs of the addresses. So you can expect on an upcoming outreach when a survey to your towns asking about addresses and their details. As you may know, we also collect parcel and CAMA from the towns, and we like to always give an overview of the collection every year. And this year we have 159 towns that submitted parcels. And we also like to see it and how they adhere to sort of the standards that we have provided. So 117 adhere to that standard. 168 towns submitted CAMA, and 131 towns comply with the issue of suppression of with the submission field. Sorry, 117 comply with submitting a suppression field. And 38 of those do not, they mentioned that do not suppress information, and 23, we estimate that 23 are of compliance suppression for suppression. And this is very important. That field that we call it the suppression is sort of like that tag to let us know that a record, the ownership and the ownership and the mailing address is suppressed for these records. Now we're going to start undergoing the 2026 parcel and camera collection. Alfredo will be sending a letter soon in the coming days. We have released a new data submission portal to ease the navigation and the submission of this data, and enabling the councils of governments to use this resource so the municipalities can submit more directly to them. Within that, we have a sort of a submission form that requires that you can submit your files, but also requires some metadata information, which we're underlining a little bit more in this process to have that complete picture again of parcel, their maintenance, who is responsible for what, and other sort of details that are useful for the enhancing the quality of how the parcel and the CAMA data connects to each other. So you will see a little bit more about the parcel and CAMA collection in the upcoming weeks as well. Again, as you may know, we do have also funds. We had funds for the improvement of parcel and CAMA throughout the state with different targets based on different things that analysis that we did over the submissions. We found issues with some recency of the updates, a lot of the match rates, which is how well the parcel sort of talks with the CAMA and vice versa, and some data completeness also issues and other smaller geometry issues. So there were total funds of $2 million, and they were distributed based on the number of towns with an equal balance. And we have helped providing sort of data analysis and setting up the targets for these funds. Just an overview, this grants have a tier prioritization based on what I showed you before. So all the efforts were sort of through that funnel of the recency first, and CAMA to parcel match rates, and the completeness of those fields that are really useful for different analysis. And now I will pass it on to Sarah for the next part of the presentation. Sarah, you can let me know when I have to go next. And if you have any questions, sorry that I was very brief on the addresses, but if you have any questions about that survey or would like to talk more about any of the topics that I covered, please let me know.
Great. Thanks, Ashley. Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah Hurley. I'm one of the GIS coordinators at the GIS office. I largely work with our hydrography and the housing and the imagery and elevation programs in the GIS office. So the first thing we're going to talk about here is our 2026 imagery and LiDAR capture. This is starting very soon. We should be starting it within this week or next week. Our imagery data is high resolution aerial photographs of the whole state, and the LiDAR data is a 3D point cloud of data across the whole state, where we can derive a lot of different data types, but the bare earth elevation data gives you a statewide elevation data set. And then there's a lot of other derivatives from that, which we'll talk about in a minute. But we contract with Dewberry to do this data collection, and they manage our flights that will go across the whole state and collect this data. So that basically looks like planes that fly back and forth across the state. They have cameras and devices on the bottom of the plane um, that will collect the data, and then Dewberry will take that data and get those deliverables back to us. So the flights will be happening right around now because we do leaf off imagery. So we want the trees to not have any leaves on it, but we would also like the ground to have no snow. So we're kind of in um, that spot right now where we're waiting for the snow to finish melting, but before the leaves start growing on the trees, which is a pretty tight window, especially this year with how much snow we got. So they've been watching the ground conditions pretty closely, and we're hopefully getting to the point where we have minimal snow before the leaves really start growing. So hopefully we can hit that window right around now. Um, so this QR code is just a survey that has been helping Dewberry understand what the ground conditions look like right now. So you can scan the survey or scan the QR code, pulls up a survey, and you could submit photos or verbal narrative about if you're seeing snow outside your window, so they can get a good idea of what these conditions are right now. I think we can go to the next slide. Yeah, so we did this collection also in 2023 using the ARPA funds, and those funds were able to cover our 2026 flight this year. We're doing the same uh, uh, specs, same resolution as the 2023 data so that we are able to compare conditions across 2023 and 2026 imagery and elevation data. And from that, we have a lot of other data derivatives. So we have all of those fully complete and delivered from our 2023 data. So that includes imagery elevation, 2D building footprints. We have 3D buildings, contour lines, and there's a few more that are out there now. And then in addition to our flights that we do, federally, the National Agriculture Imagery Program, which is also called NAEP, they do every 2 years or so, they do an imagery collection, but they do leaf on imagery. So it's a little bit different than ours, a little bit, with such a highly forested state, it's a little bit harder to see the ground conditions with the leaf on. And then we are also able to orthorectify a lot of spots of our imagery, which you can see in the photos at the bottom. So that basically means that you see in the 2023 NAEP photo that the Capitol building is slightly sideways, just by the way that the camera took it. So we're able to use several different photos, and it changes the image so it looks like you're looking straight down onto the building. So you have a really good idea of how that looks from the top. So there's the 2025 NAEP imagery should be coming out soon, but they, like I said, they do it every 2 years or so. 2 years or so. So all that data from previous years is available. And then I think it was in the fall time, Dewberry did a webinar, in December they did a webinar about our 2026 flight. So they go into a little bit more detail of um, all of that about what's happening on these flights coming up and what the data is going to look like. So if you want more information about that, you can take a look at that webinar. And can we go to the next slide? So these are some of the derivative data sets that we get from this data. One really interesting one is our impervious cover data, and that covers driveways, roads, sidewalks, bridges, any impervious cover areas. We have a polygon for it, and we should be able to publish that soon. We have all the data. We're just, one more look through it, but that is going to become public soon. And then the DOT also worked to have transportation lane data from the information. We also have contours and our steep slopes, which is all the land where it's moderate steep or very steep areas. It's a really big data set, but it should be really useful in determining where there are steep areas. So the next program is our 3DHP, which stands for the 3D Hydrography Program. We are in a partnership with the other New England states to participate in this program with USGS. So the 3DHP will use our high resolution elevation data to create a new surface water data set, and that will replace the outdated national hydrography data set. So the data for this program is derived by watershed, and since many watersheds are crossing state boundaries, we wanted to collaborate with the neighboring states so that we can get a full look on the entirety of these watersheds and get all of them done. So there's a data collaborative agreement with USGS, so they cover part of the cost and the data validation. So we applied for this for 2025 and didn't receive the funding, but we were able to reapply in 2026. And then we've been approved with that, and we're moving forward with both the border watersheds. So we're working with our partner states to do the border watersheds, and then we're doing the full internal watersheds in Connecticut. And let's see. So we're gonna have this hydrography data for almost all of Connecticut, except for that one little section in the panhandle in the bottom corner, just because New York doesn't have the data, but hopefully we'll be able to do that in the future. And the work for this should start this summer. So we should be able to see data around next summer. And to fund this, OPM is going to be submitting a bond fund allocation request to pay for the Connecticut contribution, and we should be doing that around May time. So then, in a similar project, similar, topic area, PA 2533 requires that all municipalities submit a geospatial data file of every culvert and bridge within their boundary. So this is understandably a very large task, and the GIS office has been taking the first steps on this process. We first needed to identify all the data that's available, and now we're working on developing a data schema that we're going to require that the towns submit this data in, so that we're able to take all the town data and aggregate it into one big statewide data set. So that's where we're currently at with this program. Can we go to the next slide? So we had aggregated our first data sets that we have available, and we were seeing that a lot of the data is very different. Some are lines, some are points. So they're pretty different across data sets. So we want to make sure that the schema is able to get the data all in the same data type and giving us the same information so that we can aggregate it all. Currently, there's a request out to the COGs and municipalities to send us any culvert data that they currently have available. So that'll help us kind of see the landscape of what is already being collected and what is out there and how this data already exists. So our last item is talking about the housing bill data tools. So I'm sure you're all aware of the PA 25-1, an act concerning housing growth. There's a lot of different pieces in it. But the part that we're involved with involves the housing growth plans. So the GIS office has been asked to provide data tools to help the towns um, develop their developable land inventory. So the two parts of this are that we're going to provide guidelines that specify mapping standards for these annual reports that will be going to OPM. So in those reports, there are some required maps, and we're going to be providing mapping standards of how that's going to look in those reports. And then the second part is providing data and tools to help COGs and towns determine what developable lands they have available for housing. So that's going to be in the form of a hub website. So there'll be a collection of relevant data and tools and other resources that we're working on developing at the moment. Can we go to the next slide? So the hub is going to have lots of other spatial housing resources, but specifically for PA 25-1 for the developable land inventory. It will include the mapping guidance. We're going to make some high-level thematic map viewers, which policymakers will be able to look at for decision making. So there's going to be no complicated analyses or anything like that. It will just be subject specific data layers so that you'll able to just look at a map and zoom in and quickly get an idea of what that area is looking like in terms of housing and what decisions need to be made at that level. And then we're also going to develop some scenario-based walkthroughs for GIS analyses so that when the GIS people get their hands on the data and need to do these analyses, we are able to provide some guidance on specific topics like urban, suburban, rural areas, things like that, just to give a little bit of guidance in that area. And then we'll also have a data library of all the different data types that are either required from the statute or other types of data that we think might be useful for the communities deciding what land is developable or not. So we're not creating a developable land inventory for the whole state because we don't have that local data and we don't have that local insight on community level areas. So we are just providing the tools and the data to be able to do that. Yeah, and I think that is it. So if anyone has any questions, we can answer them now. But thank you for listening.
Sarah, I have a question for you, if you don't mind.
Sure. Yep.
Just in regard to LiDAR, I know enough about it to be dangerous.
Uh-oh.
However, I have a question for you in regard to LiDAR. From what I understand, LiDAR is able to look beneath the ground. Is that correct?
Um, the LiDAR that we have is not looking beneath the ground.
It is
The,
not.
the so I can answer this. Some lidar can pierce
Yeah.
beneath the ground. It depends on the frequency of the laser that's being used.
Hmm.
The frequency that we are using for this capture in particular is meant to be getting returns from the ground because that's what we're trying to measure. There are some that can measure beneath, and you can do all sorts of crazy things like estimate the amount of groundwater because of, like the intensity of the return and all that kind of fun stuff. But in this particular case, the lasers we are using are tuned specifically to reflect off the surface of the ground.
Understood. And the reason I was asking, it came with a purpose. A lot of the towns had just recently suffered the floods, right? We had the 1,000-year flood where a lot of our roads were undermined and things of that nature. I was looking at it from a benefit of being able to look under those roads in some circumstances and maybe be able to predict sinkholes and areas that have been washed out that you may not see immediately after the flood. It might take years to reveal themselves. So I was looking for it as a benefit to my town or other towns that were affected to possibly search for those things ahead of time. So that was the reason I was asking. But yeah, I do understand that LiDAR has been used to recover underground cities in some parts of Europe and Turkey and things of that nature. But I was looking at for that application. So that answers my question. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. That we can look into what that would be. That's typically more ground penetrating radar.
Yep.
But like, the when I say you can tune LiDAR to kind of search beneath the surface, you're talking like inches, not like feet.
Yeah,
Yeah, the ground penetrating radar, Terry, would be probably your better bet for that. We actually did a little bit of that work in Trumbull on an EPA assessment, looking for potential storage tanks underground, and they use ground penetrating radar for that specifically. So it is possible to get further down, but it would have to be done. That is typically done more on a very site-specific basis than it would be kind of flown over the whole state.
understood. Yeah, and this would be obviously site specific,
Yep.
So anyway, you answer my question. Thank you very much.
Okay, that certainly was a comprehensive presentation. We appreciate that. Does anybody else have any other questions at this point? Okay, thank you again, Ashley. Alfredo, we
Thanks.
appreciate it.
Yep, thank
Matt,
you
do you have
all.
anything else you wanted to offer there? Or-
Well,
No,
can
I think we're good.
Can I ask a
Oh,
question for the first speaker? I mean, can you just tell us if any of our towns are out of compliance with the GIS submission requirements?
No, MetroCOG right now is not in not compliance. Yeah.
yeah, Dan,
Yes.
we coordinate with the towns every year to collect the parcel data and submit it to OPM. And we have done so ever since it was required. So no, there's no towns in MetroCOG that have not continued their annual updates.
Okay, great. Because I know we hadn't done some of the GIS. We hadn't submitted some of the GIS data we needed to. Okay, great. All right, thanks.
Okay, thank you again. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, we don't have any action items on our agenda this morning, so I'm going to turn to the discussion items. And Matt, you want to start with A, which is the regional POCD.
Yeah, just a quick update. As we've talked about in previous meetings, we are updating the regional plan of conservation and development. We've had a team set up of municipal staff to help guide that process with our staff, as well as some focus groups on specific focus areas. I did send to you all, I think it was a couple weeks ago at this point. I can resend it. Our goals and objectives for each of the various sections of the plan. I will resend that to you. I just want to make sure you all see it. I think it's pretty straightforward. It's comprehensive across a number of different items and requirements as outlined in the statutory language for the regional POCDs. And again, we've worked really closely with staff to make sure that we are addressing all the local intricacies that the region has, and make sure that we are kind of including all those as part of our planning processes. We are also putting together some opportunities and some outreach materials specifically for your individual planning and zoning commissions. We're not going to go present to them, but we are going to kind of create some short videos about each of the focus areas and what the plan is going to contain within them for them to be digested at the planning and zoning commissions at their own time and place. And we also will be putting the draft plan out for public consumption and public review and public comment after we get it to you all for review first. So that's really where we are with that. Megan, I don't know if you have anything else to add to it. Oh, Megan, you're muted if you're talking. Sorry. Okay. I guess
He's
we're good.
having some internet issues
Yeah.
as well, so.
Everyone's having some internet issues.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're good. I now, like I said, I will resend you all the goals and objectives for each of the sections of the plan, just so you can take a look at them. I don't believe there's anything in there that should be of concern to you, but I want to make sure you all have a chance to see them. So I will resend those today after the meeting.
Thanks, Matt.
And Matt, you covered everything regarding the POCD.
Great.
So even if
Thanks,
Megan
Simone.
wasn't able to reach us right now, you covered everything. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, great. So let's, any further questions about the POCD item? Okay, then let's go to item B, which is the Economic Development Strategies update.
Yeah, as I mentioned last month, we have to update our CEDS, the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy. It was initially completed and adopted in the fall of 2021. It has to be updated every 5 years. Last time around, we went out and hired a consultant for this using some EDA funds, which proved to be more difficult to manage than they were worth receiving, to be honest. It wasn't that much money, and the time and effort it took to comply with the federal requirements did not really, the return on that benefit was not seen very well. So we are going to be updating it internally this time around. Noah Miller, who's on a newish planner, is going to be working directly with Patrick Carlton on that strategy document. One thing we have to do as part of the SEDS is have a strategy committee. Last time we did work through the BRBC and their economic development committee to kind of set up that strategy committee, although it was very difficult to get those folks kind of in and meet and have input from them on a timely basis. So we talked to a couple other COGs that have done this process recently. And they all began using the board members, so you all and economic development staff within the region, within your municipalities, as kind of the strategy committee to help guide this planning process. So, our hope is that we would do the same for this update for ourselves. So we will be sending some information out to you all and your economic development directors and any other staff they can obviously bring in at their discretion to be part of the strategy committee. And the strategy committee really is just going to meet a few times to. We're going to go over some of the data trends that we've seen over the last 5 years, review some of that information, review some of the goals and the SWOT analysis. So there's a strengths, weakness, and opportunities analysis that is required. So we will kind of take the first pass at that internally with staff and then present that to the strategy committee, get feedback, make modifications, and then go forward with producing the full document. So I just wanted to kind of give you a larger overview on what that process looks like. And that, again, as opposed to using the BRBC this time, I think there's value in us kind of doing it internally and using you all, along with Dan Onofrio from BRBC, who would be part of that committee as well, kind of representing the business community, and maybe one or two folks that he recommends to bring into this. So that's kind of our process for this. So you'll be seeing some more information, both from myself and/or Pat and Noah in the coming weeks on the SEDS process. But just wanted to give you all an update on where we were with that. We are in the kind of data collection and data analysis phase right now. So once we complete that, we will be presenting to the strategy committee what those results were. Apologize. And Pat, no, I don't know if you have anything else on that item.
No, I think you gave a good overview. As Matt mentioned, we have some materials that we'll be sending out to the board for review, and really just give an update on the process and kind of where it goes from here. But obviously, we're just starting this, so obviously going through the data collection and data analysis piece. And once obviously we have some more of those findings, we're happy to share all the results with you, and always provide updates as we get more into the process.
Thanks, Pat.
Yep.
Okay. Any more questions, conversation, discussion about that item? Okay, let's move on to item C, the Pura update for us, Matt, please.
Yeah, so I was going to send something out yesterday, but I figured we were meeting today. I would just hold a discussion for this meeting. So as many of you likely know, Pura did meet yesterday at their regular meeting at 9 a.m. The first item on their agenda was the remand of the judge's appeal back to Pura on the Aquarian Water Company change in control to AWA. As I indicated to all of you previously, based on their draft decision, they unanimously, 3-0, approved the application. It's 3-0 this time, just as a side note, as opposed to the 4-0 in November, which was denied. So that is because the chairman, Chairman Wheel, he recused himself early on because he was part of OCC that provided that basically set out the OCC path for their concerns about this case. So when he became a Pura commissioner, he recused himself. And then the new commissioner that was just made an interim commissioner in January did not feel as if he had the time or ability to come up to speed fully. So he recused himself as well. So there's only three commissioners, Vice Chairman Arcante, Commissioner Cheeseman, and Commissioner Beecher are the three that voted on this. So again, they approved it unanimously, 3-0. They did in their statements, and I watched it yesterday morning. They did still, the Pura staff did still have some concerns about the financials and the governance piece. But the arguments we made in the oral arguments last week from both our attorney and David Ball, as well as OCC, the Office of Consumer Counsel, and the AG's office, that Pura still had it well within their rights to deny the application. It seems like they did not take any of that really to heart, unfortunately. So where we are now, I just actually received an email from our attorney. They have been in discussions. He's been in discussions with David Ball, who is representing 4 municipalities. We are exploring all potential options regarding additional appeals on this decision from Pura. So that is kind of still in the works right now. I don't have any updates as that just happened yesterday morning. We have not finalized kind of the path forward on an appeal process, but we are communicating both with our councils and the OCC and AG's office on what an appeal potentially looks like, and who actually files a motion, and where we can support that, or where we can be the ones that file that appeal. As I said previously, unfortunately, it's difficult to understand how you could deny something 4-0 in November and have nothing change, and now approve it 3-0, 3.5, 4 months later. But that is unfortunately what has happened here. There is still, just to keep you all fully updated, there is still a piece of legislation that was passed out of the Energy and Technology Committee a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago now, that does modify both the governance structure. It changes the authority board structure from a 6-5 majority RWA to a 6-5 majority to AWA. It also looks to clarify the legislative intent of Public Act 24-1, which is really what the appeal judge, Judge Budzik, put in his remand decision, was that the Pura could not override the legislature in that, and they didn't really have authority to say the governance structure was not in the public interest. We always have believed that the legislature intended for Pura to have full control and full regulatory control to review this application, including the governance structure, and that structure was only going to kind of become real if Pura deemed it acceptable. So the language in the legislation that was voted out of committee does try to address that issue of the judge's interpretation of the legislative intent, and make it very clear that the legislature intended always for Pura to have full control. What happens with that piece of legislation, I do not know. It is voted out to the floor, so it is able to be brought to the floor for a vote at any point by the House of Representatives in the state. We are working behind the scenes to try and see if we can garner support for that and get that bill raised in the House for a floor debate and a vote. But I don't have anything more on that at this time. I would say the one thing that you all potentially could do individually is make sure you reach out to each of your legislative delegation folks, especially those members of the House, and urge them to continue to put pressure on their caucuses to support this bill coming out for a vote in the House. That's really our best case scenario right now. We do have about a little over a month of the session left, so there will be a number of other days that the House and Senate are in session to potentially raise this bill. So we are working diligently to try and get enough support within the House to raise that bill, but there are a number of roadblocks we are trying to contend with as well. So that's the unfortunate update for Pura right now, but we are, as I said, exploring all options moving forward, and I don't think this is the end of it. Fortunately or unfortunately, we will continue to support all the potential opportunities we have to address this decision, which we don't believe is the correct one.
Okay. Anybody have any questions, discussion about this? Obviously, this is not something we would have expected, especially since the result was the exact opposite, basically less than 3 months ago. So it's just extremely frustrating. So I think we should all take Matt's advice and reach out to uh, our legislative delegation and make sure that they do what they can to get this vote to the floor. So
And I do have some I put together some draft talking points about our major concerns with this deal. So I will get that all to you so you have it when you do speak with any of the legislative delegation members from your municipality.
Thanks, Matt. That'd be very helpful.
And can I just add one thing, Matt?
Yeah, please, Pat.
I have a copy of the decision. It's about a 50-page decision. So if you haven't seen it, I could send that out after this meeting.
Yeah, why don't you
that
do that, Pat, just so
yeah.
everyone has it. I mean, it's lengthy. It's a lot of interesting things if you want to take a look at it. They certainly seem to at some points kind of I would say try to directly address some of the arguments that were made by both Tony McLeod and David Ball and the AG's office and the OCC during the most recent oral arguments. It seemed like they kind of went out of the way to try and, in their decision, dispel some of our the arguments we made in their decision, and they tried to the way I read it is they were trying to limit our ability to appeal. But I think there are still certainly grounds that we could file an appeal under even with that. But yeah, Pat, if you want to share that out with the board afterwards, that'd be great. Thank you.
So Matt, I haven't seen anything, but that doesn't mean that it hasn't been done. Has William Tong made any comments yet about this?
I haven't seen anything publicly from him. I will say he was very, very strong at the oral arguments. He was there for 5.5 hours, which isn't typical for an AG. So he spent a considerable part of his day, or 4.5 hours, part of his day at the oral arguments. Talked very passionately during his time and with his major concerns of this transaction and why he was against it. I haven't seen anything publicly from him yet, but if I do see anything, I will get it out to you. There was also
there is a press release, Matt, that he
oh,
did.
there is one from the AG's office?
Yes,
Okay, I didn't see that yet. Sorry.
I could
Thanks,
send
Pat.
that out with the decision as well.
Yeah, why don't you include that with decision so everyone can see that as well. And we have had some discussions, our council has had some discussions with the Attorney General's office about what a potential appeal looks like and who might be the lead on that. So I will keep you all informed as that discussion continues.
Madam Chair, if I can, I'd just like
Sure.
to say
Go
one
ahead,
thing. This is not a question. This is more of a statement. With this sale of Aquarian to RWA, I would certainly hope that there's a strong consideration by Eversource to remove public benefits. That is my statement. Thank you.
Yeah, I also had a comment. So I went up to the Connecticut Land Trust Conference on Saturday, which I recommend. They have it every year at Wesleyan University. And I got to talk to some people who work at RWA, and then I also saw workers from Aquarian here in Easton. And I was sort of surprised that, you know, they think it's going to be administered better than Aquarian. They pointed out that maybe new technology will be introduced faster, this or that. So I was just sort of surprised that they were kind of all for it. And I obviously from Easton's point of view, we're very concerned about the tax revenue and whether or not they'll be obligated to pay their full taxes with pilot and how that'll work, and then the water rates. But I just wanted to throw that out there that the people who work at Aquarian and then the people who work at RWA, they think it's going to be better. And I just was sort of surprised to hear that. And I didn't know that before I spoke to them.
Yeah, thanks, Ed. I mean, I can't speak for individual employees. I would say that, at the employee side of this, I don't think I don't know how RWA is run. We don't have a lot of experience, dealing with them. I think people that have worked for Aquarian for years, it's a 175-year-old company in various iterations, have been very happy and consider it a very good place to work. I don't know what those changes would be on the kind of employee side. But I also think that, those employees don't really have to worry about, to a certain extent, don't have to worry about, I mean, they might be ratepayers, but aren't necessarily as clued into the financial aspects and the governance aspects of this deal that are really where we have major concerns about how this goes forward and how it continues in the future and what the potential burden on ratepayers and municipalities would be. But it's not surprising that the staff level wouldn't be concerned, but I do think our concerns on a higher level, on an administrative level, are still very, very valid, and we're going to try to exhaust every option we have.
Okay. Any other comments, questions at this point? Okay, so hearing none at this time, let's move on to the Safe Streets item D on the discussion items.
Yep. Thank you, Vicky. So just a quick update. We received from the Federal Highways Administration a grant under the Safe Streets for All grant program. I think we talked about this once or twice previously, and this board approved us entering into that grant agreement about a year and a half ago. We are at a place now where we have a consultant on board, not fully executed, but we have a preferred consultant selected that we will be moving forward with. Some of the work under that grant program is updating our safety action plan, which staff is already working on. But the bigger piece that I just wanted to make aware to all of you is that it was a planning and demonstration grant. So the demonstration grant is really short-term, quick build type projects that would be put out on the street for a temporary period of time, typically between April 1st and October 30th is what DOT allows. And just as a reminder, we are focusing on all the state-owned assets with this grant. So we're not going to look at local road improvements, but it'll be all the state roads, which we know have some pretty significant safety issues and crash histories on them. So our consultant will be working with us and our high injury network and our crash hotspot data that we update on an annual basis to identify the locations where we will design the short-term temporary demonstration projects. They could be things like bollards at intersections to kind of reduce crossing distances and change the geometry of the turn to make sure people are not taking turns at high speeds. It could be daylighting crosswalks, so putting up bollards or some type of implementation where you don't allow cars to park too close to crosswalks to make sure pedestrians are seen. It can be paint, it can be temporary paint to try and show, where pedestrians can be, refuge locations. So there's a number of different demonstration project types. We're going to work with our consultant to analyze the crash history data and all of the data that we have. And the consultant and our staff and staff from your municipalities will work to kind of identify the various types of demonstration projects that may be helpful in addressing the safety issues at each one of those locations. So we don't have an idea now. I know based on our grant application, I think we have to do at least 4 to 6 demonstration projects throughout the region. Our hope is, though, that we have enough money and we work with our consultant to get the costs on these demonstration projects down to a place where we can do significantly more than that. So that's kind of our hope right now. As we work through the initial process, we will be coordinating with your municipal staff, engineering staff, planning staff, and have them work with our consultants directly to make sure that we are identifying the right locations to try and start looking at addressing some of these safety concerns. And again, unfortunately, these are demonstration projects, so they will be put out temporarily and have to come down. But our hope is to be able to use those as an opportunity to show the effectiveness of these safety measures, to hopefully then look for programming for permanent improvements that will help, more permanently increase safety for pedestrians and bikes and vehicles traveling through our region.
Well, it certainly is positive news.
After the last item, we need some.
Yeah, I'm sure we can all use a lot more of that. All right. So, any questions on that update about Safe Streets? Okay, hearing none, let's go to something positive as well, and you can update us on the office remodel.
Yeah, so unfortunately, we're still not in the office yet, which is why this is a virtual only meeting. So I appreciate you all being okay with accommodating our lack of office space for the short term. So we did meet with our general contractor yesterday. Colleen, Pat, and I have had weekly meetings with them. Everything's basically done-ish. The new floor is going in today, and yesterday. It should be done by tomorrow. And the only thing we're waiting on now is the furniture that we ordered for the two new offices, as well as a couple additional cubicles for the open area of the office are a little delayed. And one thing that those wouldn't be a major issue for us getting back into the office, except for the fact that there was an upgrade to the electrical standards on I don't know, I'm not an electrician, so I don't know all the words, but basically the power that comes into the cubicles that allows the cubicles to have power receptacle that comes up through the floor. It's basically cored up through the floor and underneath. There is a new standard for those that power receptacle that our current receptacles do not meet. So those are on order. We should have them hopefully next week. So we can't do the final inspection until such time that those power pieces are installed. So that's kind of the last limiting factor to us being issued a certificate of occupancy. So once we have that, we'll be able to move back in fully and get all of our stuff out of the conference room so we can have a conference room again. But it moved very well. Everything was really remained on schedule, and the only reason we're a little bit delayed is because of the ordering of this very specific electrical component that needs to be installed. But otherwise, the remodel went very well. The general contractor did a great job staying on schedule. Even with the snow and things that we had, they didn't really lose any time. So it's been a pretty seamless process, and I think the office is. I was there last week. It looks really nice. It's well done. It's a little bit bigger than what we had before. It gives us a little bit of ability to add more capacity staff wise, which is great. And we're really happy with how it's come out so far. So we look forward to hopefully being able to show it off to all of you for an in-person meeting in April. Is my hope.
Well, that's good to hear, Matt.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
looking
great.
forward to seeing it for the renovation for you guys. So, anybody have a question? Okay, let's move on to the housing bill.
Yep. So housing bill, as I talked about last time, or maybe 2 months ago, I forget. We did put out an RFP to get a consultant on that can help each one of the municipalities with the zoning revisions that are required as part of Public Act 25-1. Specifically, those zoning revisions are related to minimum parking, as well as the summary review for the development of middle housing, 2 to 9 units on commercially or mixed use zones, existing commercial or mixed use zones. We did put that out. We unfortunately got one response last week. They were due the 19th. We only got one response. So what we are doing internally is we are going to extend that deadline out another 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, and get it to some other lists that maybe didn't see it or didn't publish it enough to hopefully get some more. We did reach out to a couple other COGs who had 4 to 8 responses when they put out their basically same RFP. So we just think maybe either got lost with some of the other ones that were out there, or maybe they thought it was the same one and didn't respond. So we're just going to give a couple more weeks to get a few more responses in to make sure that we have enough to go off of before we select a preferred consultant for that work. And then as soon as we get them on, we will put them in touch with your planning department and whoever else they need to talk to, so that they can be, again, and this is going to be of no cost to yourselves, a no cost ability to help where and how necessary to make sure your municipality can comply with those zoning revisions. I also, just on the zoning side, based on the Public Act, the zoning revisions are supposed to be done by July 1st of this year. It's going to be a very big lift for, I think, every municipality in the state. I am trying to have a conversation with legislative leadership to see if in some of they're making a couple very small fixes to the bill at some point in this session. I am trying to have a discussion to see if it's possible to just extend that July 1st deadline out to January 1st of next year. Just give the town 6 months, municipality 6 months additional to make those zoning revisions before they go into effect. So I will keep you updated on that discussion. I don't know where it's going to go, but it is something I'm trying to do because I do think that would give us a little bit more lead time in order to have these revisions incorporated fully into your zoning codes.
Wait, Matt, can you just go over which parts of the zoning need to be in by July 4th?
It's July 1st right now, but as I said, we are trying to see if that can get extended. It's also, I mean, it's supposed to be in there, but it's not. I don't think there's no punitive measures if the zoning is not updated by July 1st. So I just want to put that out there too.
No, but my question is
No, I'm going to get to that, Dan. So there's a minimum parking requirement where municipalities are not allowed to require parking greater than one spot per studio or one bedroom apartment, or greater than two spots for a two-bedroom apartment, or greater than three spots for any units greater than two bedrooms. So that's the parking piece. And then the other one is related to a summary review of, so it's as opposed to going through a full zoning process, summary review is kind of like an expedited review where the town sets out guidelines beforehand. In the summary review code that you have. And this is specifically for the development of middle housing, so 2 units to 9 units on existing commercial or mixed use parcels. So they have to be zoned commercial or mixed use currently for that to be applicable. And that would allow a developer to come in and put in an application. And as long as that application satisfied all the criteria that the town laid out for the summary review, they would be able to basically get a sign off and administratively without having to go through the full zoning commission process for those 2 to 9 unit developments.
Okay, yeah, well, I guess when I saw that, I thought we don't have that. We don't have mixed use, or so I didn't know.
Yeah,
If
you don't really have one. I think you only have two commercial zoned parcels very minimally. So it's not I think, Dan, for your specific perspective, I don't think it's of major concern because you don't have a whole lot of those 2 zoning types in your municipality.
Okay, and then just while I have the floor here, there's a zoning association meeting tonight at the AquaTurf that I'm gonna go to. I don't know if anybody else is interested. It seems to be the Connecticut Association of Zoning.
It's the zoning enforcement officers have an annual meeting. I think that's what that is tonight, I believe.
Yeah, so that looked like a good one because they're gonna go over 802 again. So if anybody's interested, that's happening.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
Okay, does anybody have any other questions on the zoning update on the housing bill? So obviously that will be, I know we've talked about this at our previous meetings, but certainly that consultant will be very helpful to us, to all of us. So we appreciate that.
Yeah, we're trying to make sure we have enough responses to make a good informed decision on who to move forward with.
Anyone else have a question on that? All right, let's move to the last item then, if you would update us on that.
Yep, yeah, CBRG, the Climate Pollution Reduction Grant Program through EPA that we've been administering for the last couple of years. Our comprehensive Climate Action Plan, CCAP. I always too many acronyms. Is complete. We're just waiting on our consultant to provide. We're kind of doing some handbooks or playbooks for each of the different sections. So once those are completed, we will be submitting it to EPA for our formal submission of that. It's not technically due, I don't think, until June or July of this year, but we're trying to get it in early since we were ready to submit back in December when the initial deadline was, and then they extended it out through I think it's June. But we will be submitting that shortly and making sure we are in full compliance with that grant. And then we do have a couple years of additional funding over the next 2 years to work on some additional work. We're coordinating right now with EPA and MetroCOG, who's a partner with us on this climate action plan and this grant program, to try and potentially identify some opportunities where we can assist the municipalities specifically with looking at kind of some of their energy envelope issues with their buildings and get some more real data that we could then use to provide to you all. And inform you on potential opportunities for energy savings and those types of things. So we'll provide more information as we get a little bit more from EPA on that. But it's something that we're hoping to do over the next couple of years directly with you on your municipally owned buildings to give you all a better handle on where you're currently what your current energy utilization is, what you're currently paying from a rate perspective for these buildings, and what opportunities exist to potentially mitigate some of that energy usage and have more sustainable and conservation practices within those municipal buildings. So that's something we're hoping to be able to provide for you as we go forward over the next year and a half or so.
Okay, any questions on that? All right, thanks, Matt, for that update. Appreciate it. We're at the end of our agenda. Anybody have any other business they want to discuss?
Nice long meeting. Thank you all.
Yeah,
I know-
Matt, can you resend that POCD
Yep, I'm
stuff?
gonna send it right
And
after this
then-
meeting.
And then I am interested in any kind of the traffic planning stuff or even the trains. If you have that like already, just forward that to me. So I want to try to figure out what our role is on that.
Yeah, and I'm happy to set up a meeting with you too, Dan, to come talk with you in more detail about it all.
All right. Okay. Awesome. Yeah, I would like to talk to you about the taxes and the pilot too, and I would like to get the exact language of how that works if you have it.
Yep, we have that. We can get it to you.
'Cause I really want to study that, like from a legal perspective. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Does the chair make a motion to adjourn?
Just let me go over the next meeting dates, which are April 30th and May 28th. And we'll wait to hear from you, Matt, whether we're going to be, at the office next time or have a hybrid meeting, however, when you're up to
Okay,
date with the,
Yeah, we should be well back,
Innovation.
moved in by then. So hopefully that'll be good.
Okay.
And Matt, just real quick, sorry I had to hop off and get back on. Were there any questions for CTDOT from you or the board?
Nope, we're good.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay. Can I get a motion to adjourn, please?
A motion.
Thanks, Ken. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Have a good
Thank
one,
you,
everybody.
everybody.